listening to the Mark Bradford Alchemy for Life podcast.
Did I catch you in time? I hope I caught you in time. Well, hey there. Welcome back. I've been getting over a head cold, but I really wanted to do this before the end of the year. So here we are. Every year I say don't make New Year's resolutions, and I tell you why. But this year, I really want to drive the point home and expand a lot on that. So let's back up. Why is it so important that you make New Year's resolutions? Why do people focus on that? Why is it the one time a year when people are all about making a change? No one says, well, it's March 3rd, time to start over. New Year's resolutions combine a number of things to make it a very powerful suggestive agent. It's a very powerful FOMO, fear of missing out, because everybody's doing it, right? It's the reset of the year. It's sort of like the train's coming back around the track again. I can jump on again. So even if I had a miserable year, even if things didn't work out, I have another chance to do it. And you and I both know that every day when you wake up is your chance to do it over. And that sounds, maybe overly romantic, but it's true. Every day when you wake up, it's like, okay, here's my chance again. And it's a pretty amazing thing when you realize that and you wake up and you're not dead. As I've said in every episode that I've dedicated to New Year's resolutions or not making them, there's more to it than just saying I'm going to do a thing. The whole system of alchemy for life and the coaching and all that stuff and the life is made of 3 things and it's bent on 5 facets and looking at your life as a whole, that whole thing is built on the premise of not just going, I'm going to shove this thing into my life. Oh, it got forcibly ejected, huh? Oh, well, I guess I'm a piece of crap. That's never going to happen. I want you to avoid that. That's why I'm telling you this. So here are the things that you need to know to make these New Year's resolutions actually work. And they're not going to be resolutions, but they're going to be things that you want to have done. First of all, one of the other reasons that people choose New Year's resolutions on this particular day is touched on in an episode that I called Become Ceremonious. And it's the importance and the impact of ceremony in our lives. When you add ceremony to something, it makes it that much more important in your life. It builds a barrier around it of importance. It builds a barrier around it in such a way that you pay attention and you treat it seriously. So when you attend a party and everyone exchanges their New Year's resolution, you're becoming ceremonious, and that's powerful. It's not going to really get it done. The only thing about that ceremony is that you're sort of selecting accountability partners without them knowing it, or rather without you knowing it, because someone may have the nerve to actually follow up with you and say, how you doing on that thing you said you were going to do? Huh? What? I was drinking. I'm not really going to do that. So again, if you're going to make New Year's resolutions, and I can't twist your arm enough to make you stop doing it, then at least become ceremonious in doing it. At least ceremoniously make them. Don't just quietly scribble them down, okay? So here are the other things you need to know. If your resolutions are the kind that say, I'm always so wishy-washy. I want to be more decisive, or, I procrastinate so much. Pardon me. I really want to be more active, or, I got to do this. That's behavior modification. You're attempting to do behavior modification for yourself. Okay. That's different than a goal. It's a goal. My goal is to procrastinate less. Yes, but it's a behavior modification. And so when you're doing behavior modification, you need to take different steps. We'll come back to that. The other thing you could be doing is you could be saying, I have a goal. My goal is to be fantastic at basketball this year. My goal is to write a book. My goal is to write another book. My goal is to write my 10th book this year, blah, blah, blah. When you have goals to accomplish something, and you could argue that the behavior modification is accomplishing something, but you normally wouldn't bring that up with someone and say, yeah, I'm more decisive now. Oh, okay. Like, to them, they're not going to be like, oh yeah, it's great. Unless they've known you for all these years and it's been really a point of contention. You can't just walk up to someone and say, I'm decisive. Oh, nice to meet you. I'm Ralph. But you can say, I did this thing. I have a helicopter's license now. Oh, cool. So if it's something that's more of an accomplishment kind of goal, that requires a system. That requires something on the back end for you to be able to accomplish it. And as I've said before, you can't just say, I need to work out, I need to do this, I need to do that, and shove it into your schedule. Because, as I've said, life is made of three things: time, energy, and resources. That's what life is made of. That's it. So when you take something and you shove it into that time, energy, and resources, and you go, oh crap, I never had the time to work out. I had a lot of time to work out, but I just watch dumb TV because I don't have the energy to work out, right? And I've said before, and I'm saying in this upcoming book, we're not talking about physical energy, because if physical energy was the thing stopping us from working out, we'd all be Olympic gods, basically, because we don't prevent ourselves from working out because we're just so dang tired. Now, mind you, there's like 1% of the people listening who truly are that physically exhausted. I get that. But for the most part, we don't really use up our physical energy. It's a mental and emotional gas that we run out of. I just don't want to do it. Oh, it's cold. Oh my God, it's too cold to get in the car to go to the gym. So you need to change the energy. If your job is draining you, you need to stop the way your job is draining you so that you can then work on yourself. If you want to have more romantic time with your spouse and have date nights and things like that, you have to change the energy that your spouse has to be able to want that. And if you're in a situation, which was very common years ago, where you're making your spouse be the primary caregiver for your children and they're in mom mode or dad mode all day long, they don't feel like being boyfriend or girlfriend or husband or wife because their energy is all tied up in a different way. We can talk about resources, but that's a really clearly obvious one too. So if you have a goal that you need to accomplish, you need to put a system behind it. But before you do that, you need to take a step back and look at what's involved in it. That was the whole reason I created the system. Life is made of three things: time, energy, and resources. We spend it on 5 facets of life. We get this little flask, it's filled with time, energy, and resources. We swirl around and we start spilling it out into the things that need it during the day. And sometimes we're out of it before the day's even over. That's the way that stuff works. But that's just a get up, expend your flask, repeat kind of thing. So I created this thing called a balance sheet, which allows you to kind of put your life down on it. Okay. And the reason I bring it up is because that's what allows you to actually get these goals done. And just filling out a sheet like that and taking a step back puts people in that sort of deer in the headlights mode where they're like, oh my God, that's why I can't lose weight. Oh my God, that's why all those pounds just got added to me. Oh my God, that's why I can't do this. That's why I stay in this job, blah, 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 blah. Because you see it. And that's why I came up with the motto that said, life is a game. I'm just showing you the board. Because no one has ever shown you the board before. So let me talk about a third thing. And this is sort of a preemptive thing for a new book that I have coming out. There aren't just goals and behavior modification. There's something I call the anti-goal. The anti-goal is something that you want to undo. You find yourself in a crevice and you want to climb out of it. The weight loss is a perfect example of that. Imagine you're standing on solid ground, you're standing in level ground, like, right? And there might be mountains and there might be hills and valleys around you and stuff, but you're just basically at sea level here. The person standing at the very top of that mountain is an Olympic level athlete who trains hours and hours and hours a day, and they wave at you, hey, look at me. If you're an average person and your weight is okay, you're just standing at the base of the mountain. But if you put on a whole bunch of pounds because of one thing or the other, the kind of things that we talk about when you look at everything as a whole, you're not standing at sea level. You fall in a crevice. So now you're 10, 20 feet below ground in this hole that you dug. And you're just looking up at the ground. You're just looking up at ground level. You're wistfully wishing you could be somebody who is just boring and average. Somebody who is just average weight, right? You don't want to go up the mountain. You just want to crawl up and just go, oh, okay, I'm normal now, right? And I'm just saying, normal's a variable, but I'm just saying that's the way we feel. That, my friend, is an anti-goal. You have the anti-goal to undo the weight that occurred. Anti-goals apply to lots of things in which they aren't really an accomplishment from zero. You're at a negative and you want to get at least back to zero on that. Does that make sense? Does that also reveal to you a way in that some of these things seem really hard to do and they're frustrating because the thing that you would give anything for is what your friend Ralph is just, he wakes up every day and he's just like average weight and he can eat whatever he wants. And it doesn't sound like a goal to be like Ralph, but yet that's where you are. And that can be really frustrating. Here's an added bonus, and I say that perversely, a bonus to having an anti-goal. When you're laying in that crevasse and you're looking up, you don't just see the ground. You see the mountain and the guy up on the mountain. How daunting is that? So now instead of you going, well, I just need to climb up about 15 feet to get to normal sea level, you think you have to climb up the mountain and then some. So if you compare yourself to the average person, they at least get to start at the base of the mountain and just move up. You're not even at the base of the mountain yet because of what you've done or what you haven't done. That's really daunting. So when you have an anti-goal, you look at ground level, you don't look at the mountain. But it also explains why people who set a goal to do a certain thing and become normal and average, right? I'm just going to be healthy. I'm just going to I'm just going to be more active. They turn into people that are like, oh yeah, I cycle 4 times a week. Oh, I participate in marathons now. Oh, I actually do climb mountains. Oh, I've done this, I've done that. Because what happens is they get the momentum of coming out back onto ground level. And the next thing they know, they have their hand on the mountain and they're like, what are you doing? Well, I just keep going. This is kind of cool. There's no real thing stopping me. I'm going to keep going. I'm so used to this. I can't just stop. Which gets me to another thing that's extremely important. And again, something that I feature prominently in this book. Whatever you repeat, you will get better at. If you look back in your life at all the things you're good at, it's something that you have been repeating. You do it over and over and over again, and you get better at it. There are a lot of nuances there, and there are a number of things to discuss beyond the scope of this New Year's Eve resolution podcast that I'm doing, this emergency podcast to help you out so that you don't set a bunch of resolutions on a piece of paper and be really upset at yourself in 3 days, okay? You need to consider this stuff here. But the repeating is worth repeating because it's true. And you're going to try to come up with things where, well, what about the things that you keep repeating and it doesn't work? We're not talking about a repetitive thing that you're trying to change a behavior. We're talking about things that you just get better at. The more you practice, the more you do a thing, the more you do a thing. People who write get better when they write. People who speak get better when they speak. The more they speak, the better they get at speaking. The more you drive, the better you get at driving, etc., etc., etc. That's where terms like seasoned comes from and so forth, because it's just something that you know that person's better because they've been doing it for so long. They've been repeating. And again, I have a new book coming out next year, which is in a few minutes. Well, technically next year should be in a few minutes when you're listening to this. But anyway, 2024, I have a book coming out. It's actually done. That I talk about this in detail. It's the most goal-oriented book I've ever come out with, besides my very first book, which was my third book, which is about Alchemy for Life, which was basically coaching in a book. This book is the perspective of what's already in place. So in addition to everything we've talked about. And finally, I want to give you something else to help you. I touch on this in the book. I talk about this in the book. I've had a podcast episode on it. I've given a talk on it or two. It's my do it to a fault method of getting things done. And it has to do with a thing that you want to do that might be made up of a million pieces, or it might be made of the same piece done a million times. It might be something that's just simply to you a chore and you want to do it, but my God, I really don't like doing that. And using the do it to a fault method basically takes that thing that you want to do and it anchors it psychologically to one of 5 aspects of your reality, which is different than the 5 facets of life. And so, by anchoring it, it gets done. And in some cases, in fact, more often than not, it gets done almost subconsciously. It's a really, really, really cool thing. And it literally can work from the first moment that you try it. Imagine someone saying, here, do this thing. And you're like, well, I don't know. How many times do I have to? Oh, it already works. What? That's how this is. That's how powerful this little trick is, this method that I've developed. And it's real simple to understand. So, again, let me summarize this again for you. I hope I've stopped you in your tracks enough so you're like, wait a second, okay? So, before you make these resolutions, or if you have the resolutions, great. I'm not telling you to not do them, but put them aside and let's summarize again. Your resolutions and the change that you want can be one of a number of things. It can be behavior modification. And if it's behavior modification, you need to approach it a certain way. And one of the ways is the do to a fault method. If you want to accomplish a goal, you want to be a thing, do a thing, produce a thing, that requires a system to be in place. I'm not talking necessarily an elaborate system. I created a system to help people doing this. You don't have to use my system. You don't have to be coached by me. But you need to have a system in place, and you need to look at your life as a whole, and you need to look at milestones and stumbles so that you go, okay, I ran into this little snag, but I got around it. Instead of, well, I tried this, I was doing well, and I hit this thing and I gave up. No. Okay? Incorporating ceremony into things that you need to have done makes it more important, makes it better. And in fact, it pushes back on people around you. I've used the example of the woman who wanted to have some me time on a Sunday with her little girls. And we established that she would have her me time from 10 to noon. And noon they'd get together and have lunch. But 10 to noon was leave mommy alone time. And she didn't want to do it. And she found that not only when she did it, did she get the time, but the people around her realized it was mommy time. They would never ask for something on a Sunday between 10 and noon anymore. In fact, that's when they scheduled their stuff. And that's what'll happen around you. When you draw these borders, it's a two-sided border. It'll not only be a border you run up to, people on the outside will run up to it too. So, think about what I said. Feel free to listen to this again. Feel free to reach out to me. And when I say reach out to me, I don't mean to automatically engage me in coaching, although I'd love to do that for you. You can engage me for questions and things like that. I'm more than happy to help people and reach out. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me online. You can find on my websites, all that stuff. You can get my books, all that stuff. There's a very easy way to interact with me. One of the best ways to do some research before that is to listen to my podcast, this particular podcast. I have episodes on becoming ceremonious, episodes on behavior modification, episodes on measuring things, episodes on what life is made of and the 5 facets of life, episodes on doing it to a fault and how that works, episodes on sending yourself messages from the future, things like that, all sorts of things like that. I even talk about the 3 voices. One of my books, it talks about how we have 3 ways to communicate with ourselves and others. Things like that can unlock something for you so that you go, wow, this is something I needed to know. And once I got that, I got it. I mean, it was so obvious. Once I got that, that was it. If I hadn't known that, I would have never been able to do this. Because as I've always said, and I say it 100 times, don't beat yourself up. Lots of people are in the place you're in. Lots of people can help you. Information can help you, and I'm trying to provide information to you. So, good luck on these resolutions that you want. You can do this. There's a way you can do this. There's a ton of tools. I have over 250 episodes. Each one could be considered a tool. I have books, and I have this continuing podcast to help you. So good luck with that. If you need something, feel free to reach out. Okay? And Happy New Year. And I hope 2024 is absolutely wonderful for you. And I hope my voice wasn't too terrible, but I really needed to get this out for you. Take care. Thank you for listening. I love your feedback as always. Keep it coming. I always appreciate if you like, share, subscribe, and all that nonsense. And if you don't, that's cool too. By now, my new novella, The Devil's in the Details, has hit the shelves. If you like a smoldering, quick read, then you may love reading The Devil's in the Details. Check it out.